Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. I'm just going to give you the heads up. My Wi-Fi is a little bit sugary tonight. I apologise. I don't want that to detract from the podcast tonight. So if it's really bad, I'll just kind of head off. But we'll see how it goes anyway. Joining me tonight, we've got the two Anthonys, Anthony Squared. Anthony, top left, how are you? Good to see you, mate.
I'm really well, mate. Obviously, that's been a bit of a change about with the schedule tonight. So it's great to be back on. It's just the way it's worked out. I've been able to jump on tonight, so delighted. So fingers crossed your Wi-Fi holds out. Looking forward to getting chatting about another good weekend for the Celts.
Absolutely. And by the way, see the top that you're wearing. I think that in hindsight, it's kind of aged well. Whenever you've got a kind of a Celtic strip that kind of divides opinion, it certainly is enhanced by the fact that you win the league. So I've kind of warmed to that top. Definitely.
I think I always think with it when it obviously the kind of collector's hoop that they brought out after it, that had been doing the rounds first on social media, so everyone just assumed that was for going forward. So I think when this thing came out, it got total negativity because it wasn't, the kit that had been doing the rounds. And it's looking not too bad, and I think more people seem to be warming to it.
Absolutely, mate. And McGinty, you're wearing the Bumblebee 2.0. It's a cracking Bumblebee top anyway. How are you, mate? I've not seen you since a week, I think, last Monday.
It's a bit unusual 2 weeks in a row to have your acquaintance, Gavin, on the Monday Night Moan Fest, as Franny and co like to call this one. But all good. Started my new job this week. Well, last week, coming into this week, obviously. So always nervous, but generally happy and excited. New future, new career. But football-wise, again, sure we'll get into it, but always good to get a nice, good, strong victory at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, mate. And all the best to you with the new job. I thought it was going to be my Wi-Fi that was sugary tonight, but it seems like...
I'm not going to lie, at this point, Gavin, I'm going to be speaking to the guys all on my own, and they're going to hate every minute of it.
So is that a long-sleeved sponsorless one that you've got?
It is indeed. A rarity.
Yeah. Normally the long-sleeve ones, they come with a sponsor. I don't know how you managed to get that one.
Oh, Lord knows how I found it, but I managed to get it for a good price. I'm sure it was under 50 quid. 40, 45, I think it was with postage. So a bargain price, as you say, to get a long sleeve as well as sponsorless in an absolute fantastic condition.
Mm-hmm. Right, well, without any further ado, let's just kind of pay homage to the people who are in the comments. So we've got Gorgeous Christopher, hope you're doing well. We've got San Fran. We have got Irishman 1916. Who else do we have? We have P. McLaughlin. Who was actually a lot of you guys were with us on Friday night, and we were doing a feature right at the end. It was pick one player from each decade from the 60s upwards, and I think P. McLaughlin of what we were saying. And who else? I think that's everyone for the time being. McGinty, since we're talking about Celtic merchandise, and we're just rejoined again by Anthony. Welcome back. We missed you. So yeah, talking about Celtic merchandise, Celtic released a new top today. It's part of the Adidas Irish Connections. I think we've all probably managed to see it now. It was teased the night before on the website. You've got the trefoil, which a lot of people like for Adidas, and you've got the 4-leaf clover, but then it also kind of like it changes almost like kind of like a hologram type effect to the tricolor, or not the tricolor, but the 3-leaf clover. It looks a wee bit tacky, I thought.
And there goes Gavin's Wi-Fi. And also Anthony's Wi-Fi. I think I'm the only one left. So, welcome back, Gavin. Are you there?
Jesus, man, I apologise to the viewers for this. Really, really do. There was no way of kind of
cut off at the same time.
anticipating this.
But yeah, I believe you're leading into asking about the new kit that was launched, and I guess get the opinion of ourselves. For me, it's not even that nice of a shirt, to be honest. Let alone the price tag is quite horrific at 90 quid for what they'll probably class as a fourth kit, Gavin. Much like they did with the kind of anniversary kit we did, was it last year, 2 years ago, with the whiteout badges, and then previously to that we've done the kind of tricolour cuffed shirt for the whole St. Paddy's Day Irish connection thing going on, which I get the sentiment behind it. We can look towards Bayern Munich. They do their Oktoberfest shirt, usually around the October time, surprisingly. But I think with the Bayern Munich one, at least they have a match that they actually play with that shirt on, whereas this Celtic one that we've been doing for the last few years now, we just don't ever wear it, which for me now makes it not a fourth kit. It's not a football shirt. It's just a glorified t-shirt. And with a glorified t-shirt, 90 quid is just ridiculous. I have to say though, Gav, if you can still hear me back there, the jacket that has been launched at the same time, it looks banging. Anybody who had an old bomber jacket from back in the 90s or 90s, it's up that kind of street with it. It looks absolutely mint. But that's also 130 quid. No thank you.
Mm-hmm. The only bomber jacket that I used to wear when I was a wee guy was the NAF jackets. Do you remember them?
Was this the old USA high school style jacket? Or was this something else at the time? And we've lost Gavin again. This is not panning out to be a great podcast tonight, guys. I'll bring up some of your comments, talk about the shirts. 90 quid, a lot of cash from P. McLaughlin. I absolutely agree. It's a lot of cash. Jersey next season going to be 130. I can see that. If the rumours are to be true that Celtic are going to be an elite club within the Adidas range, so look at Juventus, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich themselves, I think their player spec authentic shirts are going for 125 this year. So expect us to get the elite level stuff, which is going to be the authentic player specs. Then yeah, expect 125, if not 130. I think 80, 90 quid next year for replica is probably going to be trialled at Celtic. I think we're currently sitting about 60, 70, depending on long sleeve, short sleeve, or if you can get a wee discount on it, which is already way too much, in my opinion, for a brand new shirt. But if they're going to be starting to follow suit with the likes of your Man United, your Real Madrid and stuff, then you can start looking at 90 quid for the replica, and as you see, something at 130 for the authentics. I don't think it's right to ask fans to pay more for a t-shirt than the actual, exactly, and that's all it is now. But see, because we're not playing in it, it is just a t-shirt, it's not a shirt. Maximum I pay, it's 40 quid, so I'm ruled out for the new top slower. Don't blame me, Aaron. Do not blame me at all. It's ridiculous, the amount of money that's been asked of fans to be paying. It froze my date did last night. Ooh. Welcome back, Kevin. Just covering the price points of the new shirts, looking like 125, 130 quid for the authentic shirts. If we get picked up as an elite club, it's going to be absolutely horrific pricing for next season. For the authentic replicas, will still probably be 80, 90.
I really, really apologise for this. What I'm going to try and do is see if I can do this on my phone instead.
You managed to get that sent to yourself?
Yeah.
So whilst Gav,
because I don't want to leave you hanging again, because it's
no, it's absolutely
fair. So could you just
I'll keep rambling.
Do you just give me 1 minute and I'll see if I can do this on my phone? I'll be back.
So yeah, there's I can't remember off the top of my head. There's a club recently, like last season, this season, had went down that route and then actually announced it, and it was absolutely quite refreshing because they say every 2 years was fine. You get people who would wait a season before buying it because they wanted to wait for a sale of some kind, which is understandable. But those additional sales would then will last for another year. So I think money would always be made anyhow. I don't understand, especially see guys, because we've got 3 shirts. Let's ignore the 4th kit thing just now. But see, because we've got 3 shirts, we need to have 3 shirts for European football. I don't see why don't we do an away shirt 1 year and that away shirt then gets relegated to be the 3rd shirt the 2nd season, and then at least your away shirt gets 2 years of a rotation, and it's not 3 new shirts every single season. It's more like a new shirt every season and a new away shirt every 2nd season, and that just spaces it out. I mean, we all know why. Fine, well, why we get 3 shirts every year. Money at the end of the day, 3 new shirts at $70 is a lot better in Adidas's pocket than me suggesting, 1.5 shirts every year. At the end of the day, it's a money-making exercise, and I saw somebody posted on one of the comments online earlier about the fact that this new shirt is going to be 90 quid. See if it sells, they're gonna keep doing it. I'm not saying anybody should boycott it and not pay for it. If you like it, you're going to buy it, and that's the way that Adidas is going to look at this. Is basically, if people are willing to pay the money, they're going to put that price point there. Welcome back, Gavin. How are you doing now?
I am shiting myself in case this goes horribly wrong or that my mobile phone just falls on me. But hopefully this is good enough to actually continue on with the pod. I cannot see the comments, and I probably don't even want to see the comments because they're probably going to be questioning why I'm not paying my Wi-Fi bills. Anyway, right, okay, do you remember I used to do this for the Jungle Gyms whenever we first started out?
The old style on the yeah.
Right, mate, do you want to get into the game, the Celtic and St Mirren game? Apparently there was a game of the weekend.
I've probably bored people about talking about price points of football shirts, so yeah, it'd probably be better.
Right, anyway, so the Celtic played St Mirren at Paisley on Saturday evening. It was a 5:30 kickoff, and of course we came away with 5-2. And we've extended our league lead at the top of the table to 16 points, which is hilarious because Rangers were having their homecoming, or Barry Ferguson was having his homecoming at Ibrox earlier on the Saturday, and it was Armed Forces Day as well, even more hilarity. And they get beat 2-0. Was it 2-0? Was it 2-0? Yeah, 2-0, 2-1, 2-1.
Sorry, what? What's the question?
Aye. Did they get beat 2-1 by Motherwell?
Oh yes, 2-1. No, we're getting beat 2-0 at one point. They called.
Aye. And Motherwell held on. Anyway, right, okay, so fantastic, happy days for us. And Barry Ferguson, he must be feeling like a lone ranger right now. Anyway, so going to get into the game. By the way, Celtic are just 3 wins away from retaining the Scottish Premiership crown after seeing off St Mirren. And Brendan Rodgers, he described it as one of his most favourite results of the season for a kind of combination of the fact that St Mirren are a really tough team, and it was a tough ground, tough pitch. But we kind of prevailed, and we're doing really, really well. And the good thing is that now the fixtures are going to calm down as well. So we've came through a really, really difficult part of the season where it was frantic game after game after game. But now we've kind of earned the right to, to look back at our achievements so far. Yes, the season's not over, but we're 16 points ahead. We've created a massive, massive gap, and we can just concentrate one game at a time. But we're going to get into the actual game itself. So the lineup, we had Kasper Schmeichel in goal. You had AJ, CCV, Trusty, and Schlupp at the back. In the midfield, you had Engels, Kalmak, and Rio. And up front, you had Kuhn, Ida, and Maida. So I guess one of the talking points was that Jota was dropped to the bench. But apart from that, quite a strong lineup. Were you happy with that? Were you thinking maybe Ida's physicality could be an advantage in Paisley against quite a physical St Mirren team?
The lineup was decent. I just don't understand why we keep starting with only 10 men on the pitch. It seems a bit mystifying why we don't start with an actual striker anymore. Just seems to be this hole-shaped space in the kind of attacking three. There just seems to be somebody missing all the time. You don't look too impressed. I'm talking about Adam Ida being absolutely ineffective and useless the last two games.
I was wondering if you were making a joke there. I wasn't quite sure, but I was going to wait for you to.
No, it's fine. Some people listening are going to be like, there he goes, waiting for that moment. I think Adam Ida, since Kyogo's left, has actually stood up to the plate and done reasonably well. But see the last two games, he has been worse than a man down, to the point where Maeda goes out left, which means we drop Jota, which personally for me is reducing our talent on the left wing to keep Adam Ida as a striker up front, which I understand some of the reason, but the last two games he's been that ineffective. We've actually lost the effectiveness of Dyson Maeda through the middle, and we're losing the sheer talent of Jota on the left. So persisting with Adam Ida at this point for me is like being a man and a half down, because we're not getting the best out of Dyson Maeda, in my opinion, by keeping him out on the left after seeing how good he is through the middle in the last month or so. You're asking, Adam Ida's strength. What strength? He's barely there at this point in time for me. Sorry,
it's probably a shame. It's probably a shame that we've lost the other Anthony from tonight's episode, because I know that he's quite I don't know if I would go as far as to say that he's an advocate of Adam Ida, but I think that sometimes when I felt that Adam Ida has not been great, I think maybe the other Anthony tries to put it into balance, and maybe he's got a different perspective.
Absolutely.
So it would have been interesting to get his view on it. But I guess I'm with you in terms of Adam Ida hasn't hit the standards of last season, which admittedly were very, very high standards. In that particular Kilmarnock game away at Rugby Park, where Adam Ida played like a man in fire, I think we all remember that as the best game that he had, and we have been hoping that he'd be able to repeat that. But that was probably the game of his life in terms of being a professional footballer. And if he can get to standards like that, that'd be amazing. But this season, I think we can probably agree that it's been difficult for him, because Kyogo's been in front of him, and then Kyogo leaves. He thinks he's going to be the main man, but then Maeda has been in such a rich vein of form, and he's kind of put Ida back in the bench. I think Ida needs to feel loved. He needs his confidence is up whenever he knows that people are looking at him to be the main man. And at the moment, his rhythm has been disrupted with the success of Maeda. Do you think that'd be fair to say?
I think that's fair overall. I would highlight the point, though, that he started the last two games. So he's been played alongside Dyson Maeda at the time, so he's not been overlooked for him. However, I would say it's fair that that the shine has been taken off of Adam Ida's. Let's put the last two games to the side. Again, Adam Ida has been really good since Kyogo left. He stepped up when I thought he really needed to take the opportunity. I think he did, and I think he went about 5 games or so where his consistency kept going. He was getting marginally better game by game and improving and stepping up. It's unfortunate that at the same time that happened, Maeda's exploded as well, but they were working in tandem. One was coming on for the other at times, and both of them were working well, getting goals in the same game. It's just the last 2 games he seems to have went massively backwards. As you say, Gav, with the Kelly game last season, and remember he got quite a few big goals for his last season as well. The penalties against Motherwell. There's goals last season that arguably wins is the league and definitely the cup. He's worth signing. We're beyond the point of debating really if we should have signed him or not. He's worth signing. He's worth being at Celtic. He just needs to really improve. I was hoping that the 5 games where I've got on board and was very happy for him and seeing the progression, I was hoping that was going to lead into eventually that kind of come on and dominating performance, but it just seems to have just dropped all the way back. And I think a lot of people maybe forgive him for the previous game to the St. Mirren one, because everybody was off the back of Bayern Munich and so forth, a lot of lethargic, a lot of European hangovers. But I think he didn't start that game either. He's one of the few players who probably shouldn't have the hangover, and he's continued it into the St. Mirren game where, there's that point no excuse. He needs to really step it back up again.
That's quite fair to say. Right, well, why don't we start off with some of the action from the game itself, McGinty? So the first goal was from Jeffrey Schlupp. It was in the from Maida through the middle. It's dangerous. Defenses can't cope with him. Yeah, I think the general kind of point is that Celtic up front can be very, very explosive, and we're a pressing team. We've been very much a pressing team since the start of Ange, and Ida doesn't quite embody that. I think it's good to have a plan B, an alternative to winning games, and Ida is that. I don't think he's plan A. That'd be my kind of summation of the Adam Ida quandary right now. But anyway, let's get to the first goal. So 28 minutes, and it was Jeffrey Schlupp, the Ghanaian, opened his account for Celtic, which was really, really pleasing to see. I think he's had a great start to his career at Celtic, and obviously just a different type of player to Greg Taylor. And congratulations, by the way, to Greg Taylor on becoming a father. But the man Jeffrey Schlupp right now is standing up, and he looks like an exciting prospect, despite the fact that he's 32 years old. However, it was a team goal, and we were building out from the back. We started up the right flank from to Alistair Johnson to Ida to Kuhn, and then Kuhn kind of meandered over to the left flank of Celtic, and he fed in Jeffrey Schlupp. So at this point, Jeffrey Schlupp was going into the St Mirren box, and it looked like the St Mirren opponent, the right back, I forget the guy's name, he was just kind of hanging back, standing off. He was just happy kind of stand off Schlupp, and at that point, Jeffrey just kind of duly obliged. He looked at the right back, and then he just put in a really nice, crisp, low drive effort through the guy's legs, and it went to the far post, evading the keeper. It went posting in, and it was just, I don't think anyone really expected it, but obviously Schlupp knows what he's capable of with the ball at his feet, and he had the confidence to take that drive. Nobody, I don't think, really expected it, including myself in the living room watching it. Brilliant goal, and that's us, but half an hour in, we're 1-0 up, and happy days. What was your kind of overall thoughts on that and Schlupp's performance in the game?
Well, two questions that are going to get a night and day answer. I'll try after this point not to be too much more negative. I think the goal was really well taken. I think it's something that, took me by surprise, took you by surprise, probably took a few people by surprise, but I think there's a good few people on our support who it didn't take surprise. And they've told us numerous times, like Jeffrey Schlupp, we know he's been signed as a left back, cover for left back for Taylor, so he's through the end of the season sort of thing. But he's surprisingly, to me, unsurprisingly to some other people in our support, he's actually a player who can play in a lot of positions. So I think a few people probably have been waiting and expecting that first goal to come and probably be a good shot on him, because he's probably done this quite a lot in his past that obviously I'm not privy to know, because I don't follow the likes of Leicester and Crystal Palace too much when EPL's on. But I think it's a well-taken goal. I think he's overall a good player, a very solid player. I think he's got those kind of things in his locker where he knows where the goal is, he knows how to take his own shot. He's got his little style to it, but he knows what he's doing. As for his performance, though, in this ties in with Adam Eder a little bit, but also ties in with other people. Callum McGregor, real attack, were off at points in the game. I think Jeffrey Sloop sometimes forgot that he was actually playing left back. There was quite a few incidents in that game where I feel like he was totally in the wrong position. If you want him to be a left back first and foremost for us, he was leaving big gaps and big spaces, and I was really getting annoyed with him at times. That eased after his goal. It eases after obviously the second half kind of pans out as it does. But I think there's times in that game he could have been a lot better positionally, picking up his man a little bit better. But then I have to keep bringing it back, same as Adam Eder, as much as I can be critical of the last game. Overall, in the last kind of month or so, he's been solid. So is Adam Eder. Go back to Adam Eder, those 5-6 games leading up, he has been solid. So as harsh as I might sound to him just now, both of them, they've been good players.
I've got to admit, I saw your comment in the group chat about Schlupp, and kind of just like obviously hearing you there, I hadn't noticed that. I hadn't noticed that his position was questionable at times throughout the game. I hadn't noticed that. Saying that, I was having a couple of cans of beer watching the game, you know. But maybe he did something to kind of draw your attention. I thought he had a good game, and overall, I'm really happy with the way that he's kind of asserting himself and for Celtic. But I will be more mindful of that.
Maybe I'm just being a bit too nitpicky. Maybe I've been watching that game against St Mirren with my mind on the previous game that we are very lethargic looking and everybody seems to be off it. So maybe I'm just picking up a wee bit too much. And I'll hands up admit maybe I'm being a bit too harsh on both Schlupp and Adam Eder for the St Mirren game.
No, you're probably spot on with Adam Eder. But I don't know. Well, I certainly I'll be more attentive to Schlupp's position plays anyway. Now, obviously we're on a high, 1-0 up in Paisley. Schlupp opens his scoring account for Celtic. However, within 5 minutes, we've conceded, and it was a brilliant free kick. Now, the free kick itself, it was on the edge of the box. I think it was Scales who clattered with one of the St Mirren players to give away the free kick. I've got no firm opinion about whether Scales was right or wrong to do that, whether he could have handled it better. But anyway, it's a free kick on the edge of the box. And we looked to have set up with like a 5-man wall with Dyson Maeda playing the role of the kind of draft excluder, you know, sitting down, stretching out. It just seems it was such a good idea for people to do that in football. But since people do it, it never comes into effect. Maybe people always just say, right, okay, I'll go over the top this time. Or maybe I'll just smash it at the guy lying on the floor. But I don't know. I've never seen it being a success since people start to deploy that tact. But anyway, so...
You could argue, though, by putting somebody there, the effect is that it stops the low shot. So it takes one less thing for the goalkeeper to be mindful of. Like the goalkeeper's waiting for top bins, he's waiting for the low shot under the wall. The wall's maybe thinking, can we jump or shouldn't we jump just in case? So you're putting that there, although it might not, the free kick might not hit off Dyson Maeda in that position. It probably stops that being an option for the attacking team. But maybe it is effective in that way. Okay,
well, we've got the safeguard then of Dyson Maeda lying on the ground, which would give license to everyone to jump at the same time. One guy never jumped at the same time. This guy was a wee bit late, and his name was Adam fucking Eder. However, look, the execution of the free kick was brilliant. The ball was floated perfectly up and down with the right amount of power to come crashing down the underside of the bar and into the back of the net. Casper, in my opinion, didn't have any choice. Casper's not going to stand behind the wall. He's covering the other side of the goal. That's why you've got two different parties doing their own jobs. And by the way, I would love to see one of our players being able to hit a free kick like that. It just seems like few and far between we score directly from free kicks. Like the last one you remember is Jota away to Real Madrid. Prior to that, you're probably thinking about David Turnbull was the most kind of accomplished dead ball specialist. I just don't think that we really have many players like that who are able to execute that skill. But not taken away from the strike itself. The guy who scored it, I think his name was John. Brilliant strike. However, Adam Ida mistimed his jump. Are we being too harsh on Adam Ida, or should we just applaud a good goal when it happens?
So yeah, I was going to go on a different angle. I applaud the good goal. It's a well struck goal. From a St. Mirren's perspective, the free kick happens. They set it up. They have a shot. It's a fantastically struck ball. Credit to St. Mirren for their goal sort of thing. You can't take anything away from that. You can question though how we gave away the free kick, and I think we can question like Adam. I didn't realise it was Adam Ida that didn't jump in that sense, so I'll let you berate him for it. But you can question how we defend a set piece, but you can't take anything away from the shot. And I don't think anybody can question Kasper Schmeichel on that one. As you said, he's got the ball there for a reason. As I've said, you put Dyson Maeda there for a reason. We're trying to make that side of the goal as safe as possible so the goalkeeper can concentrate on the other side. Whatever's went wrong there has been let down and they get the goal out of it. But even if Kasper could have got over quicker with it, it's rattled off the bar. You couldn't ask for a better place to hit it.
Yeah.
My question was, and this is going to be absolutely nitpicking to hell, and I don't know if anybody else in the comment spotted it, cares enough as much as I do, but on the back of VAR and referees and applying rules and all the rest of the and competency, can I just ask, have we stopped acknowledging and enforcing the rule that the attacking team can't put a guy within 1 meter of the defending wall? Because I'm not saying that in itself caused the goal. I don't want that to take away from the fact that we should defend set pieces better. But there's a guy standing right next to our wall. The free kick should have been at best retaken. If not, I think the rule is an indirect free kick to us, considering that the player was 1 meter within our wall area. I know it sounds pure nitpicking, but it's one of those things where the rule just doesn't get applied. And see the amount of times that we have VAR analyse the fuck out of our goals for minutes on end to find any reason to chop it off, yet they can't pick up on that. What the fuck?
Well, McGinty, this is why I'm glad to be on podcast with you, because you're always going to say something unexpected, something which I hadn't anticipated. So, and you could well be right. Just I hadn't paid attention to it. Maybe I'll watch it back and I'll check the rule book as well. I think that they've changed the rules a couple of times with that. So, like, what is it? An opposition player, he is allowed to be part of the wall, or does he need to get out?
No,
of the way?
This came, it's about 5 years ago, I think it came in. The whole idea of the rule, and I have to presume it's still a rule. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm on my high horse about nothing. But the idea about the rule was to stop the attacking team from putting that man on the end of the wall to kind of create the space that the attacking team puts the man on the end of the wall, then that guy kind of ducks it away to create the blind spot to allow the ball to come around, just to kind of blindside the keeper more than anything else, is to stop that kind of stuff.
All right. Okay. Right, so moving on from then, we score with practically the last kick of the first half, and it's an Engels penalty. Now, Maeda picks up the ball in almost an identical position to where Jeffrey Schlupp scored from earlier on in the game. So he receives the ball from Schlupp, actually, and he kind of stands up his opponent, the same right back who was defending against Schlupp for the opener. So he stands up his marker and he knocks the ball past him. And it's one of those occasions where Dyson Maeda is in full control of what he's doing. Sometimes he's very erratic, but he was in full control of this kind of attacking sequence, knocks it past his marker, runs onto it within a couple of strides, but the defender makes a wild swipe and brings him down. Maida, I think, gallantly tries to get back up, but he's lost his footing and he goes down. It's a most obvious penalty kick. Hi, Robert Davey. So a most obvious penalty kick, and the referee in this occasion, he didn't even have to go to VAR. I think we were all confident. He was confident too that it was indeed a penalty. So happy days with that. And so it goes to the penalty, and Engels steps up. He hammers it down the middle, right down the throat of the goal, and he gives a wee bit of verbals to the keeper as well, who dives the wrong way. So I think that the keeper must have been trying to kind of antagonise him. A bit of gamesmanship, you see that a lot, but a good penalty. So the opening sequence as well to actually force the play, brilliant from Maida, manipulating the ball that way. And I wanted to also ask you, see with Engels, he's racking up a lot of penalties. Do you think that he's a really good technical penalty taker, or do you think he's just a confident boy? I think there is a bit of a difference. Sometimes you've got, it might be unpopular for me to say this, but see Tavernier, I think Tavernier is a genuinely good penalty kick taker. Whereas you get some people who are just confident, like Frank Lampard, he scored a lot of penalties and he just kind of, a lot of times he just hit them down the throat and stuff like that. I don't think Frank Lampard was a particularly talented penalty taker. So I wanted to get your thoughts on Engels for that. I'm probably going to catch a bit of flack here from the guys in the comments saying that Tavernier's talented at taking penalties, but it's your opinion. I'm kind of eager to hear on that one anyway.
No, I think I'd agree with Irishman. It's a bit of both. I think we can all agree that Engels has good technical abilities. His free kicks are really, really good. He can find a good pass from deep in midfield. He's good at those kind of things. That's why we've got him. I think penalties taken, I think he's quite good at it. He did miss one, I'm pretty sure, early on. I think maybe a few people kind of might have that in their heads as having a bit of doubt in him. But he's also shown that confidence and that bravery just to keep going. People miss penalties every so often, but he's clearly able to hit more often than not. And he's racking up a fair number of them. Was it 9 or 10 goals he's got just now? Quite a lot of them are penalties. So we'll take that as they come, because he sets up quite a lot of kind of corners and assists with a lot of his play anyway. He's generally a talented boy. So I would say he's a bit of a both. He is good and confident in both kind of measures.
Right, and it's very much welcome, given the fact that our previous record of taking penalties was quite checkered. Like Callum McGregor wasn't particularly good, Kyogo wasn't particularly good, Jota was quite poor as well. It's good to find what is it, the youngest guy in the squad? At least in the 11 anyway, 21-year-old who's just banging in the penalties. So it's really, really pleasing to see. And we're happy to give him the responsibility because he's scoring practically all of his goals anyway. So that's 2-1 up, going into half time. Happy days. Now, just to kind of say that Trusty did go off earlier on. He had a gash on his face. He had to go off, and Liam Scales came on. I guess we can talk about Scales' performance near the end. However, half time, the second half commences, and boom, we concede another goal. Quite disappointing, and it kind of like set the tone a wee bit. I just had this fear that if we got a third, we might concede. But St Mirren score again to make it 2-each. This was on the 48 minutes, and they attack down our left flank, isolating Jeffrey Schlupp. Their right winger managed to get in a cross. Pardon me?
Told you. Jeffrey Schlupp.
Oh. What?
No, kidding.
Aye. So the cross comes in and it goes into the 6-yard box. It goes over our two centre backs and the two attackers of St Mirren. And pleasingly, Alistair Johnson is in the right position. He's goal side of his marker. And if you remember, there was a couple of months back, an away game where there was a cross that came in. It went over our two centre backs, and Alistair Johnson was in the wrong position. He wasn't goal side of his man, and he ended up bringing down his marker for a penalty, which led to a goal. But on this occasion, learn from his mistake. He's in the right position. However, I don't think his body is at the right angle to kind of leather it up the park, because the ball was coming down about waist height. Alistair Johnston is right-footed, and if he was inclined, he could have swung his left foot at it. But I don't think he had the confidence to execute that clearance. So what he did do is he stooped down and he did a diving header to clear it. But the diving header, it only put the ball up the park about 10 yards, and it just kind of falls down tantalisingly for the guy Phillips, who's the midfielder. He's waiting on the edge of the box just for an inviting ball like that, and he just runs onto it. His movement was brilliant, but the actual execution of it was a wee bit kind of unorthodox. He hammers it into the ground and it loops up. Nobody would have really anticipated that. It loops up and goes over the outstretched fingertips of Kasper Schmeichel and into the goal as well. So a bit of a poor goal to give away. We would have hoped that if Alistair Johnston is going to do the diving header, he's going to get a bit of distance and head it back to where it's coming from, not into the centre of the goal. So perhaps avoidable that way, but the goal itself, I don't think you could really blame Kasper Schmeichel for that. Or maybe I'm giving the goalkeeper too much credit. What was your thoughts? Where were you at with that? And by the way, just really, really disappointing to be conceding so soon after the second half starts. Not the start that we would have wanted, but by far it was the start that St Mirren wanted. The crowd get back with them again, and it kind of made it a wee bit more difficult for us to kind of regain control at that point. What was your thoughts?
I think because of, as you said, the time and when in the game and when in the scoreline that we concede that goal, it probably exasperates the mood about it. But on the whole, I would find it generally hard to blame anybody. I'd have to watch it back again to really overly analyse the left back situation, but I think I would be doing Schlupp a disservice if I tried to hammer him for that. The ball comes in, as you've explained, with the Alistair Johnston kind of clearance. He's done everything he felt comfortable enough to do. As he said, he's probably not wanted to swing his left foot at it. And it's one of those ones where the way it's went up and fell for the St Mirren player, he's unorthodox way, as you put it, to take the shot. I don't think any of the other defenders would have got to the ball before Alistair Johnston. So I don't think we can highlight any fault in the box as such. The ball's fallen to the guy, he's taking a shot, and nobody's can really get a quick block in there. It's a bit of a chaotic moment. And it clearly, the way it bounces to go up, Kasper Schmeichel's got no chance either. So I think if we were like 4-1 up or 5-1 up and we concede that goal as almost like a consolation, nobody bats an eyelid. But because it's in that moment where it makes it 2 each and it's just after half time, everybody's a bit more kind of on edge about it. So it's probably not a good feeling to have that goal going. But on the whole, as the goal happens, there's not much you can really do, is there?
Yeah. It is what it is. However, I think it just kind of set up for the finale of the game. We were going to have to work really hard for it and go through periods where we'd be under pressure. And I guess if we just stuck to the game plan, didn't make any more individual errors, then we would be able to get the 3 points. And that's kind of how it panned out in the second half. So it took us another 20 minutes to score. And this was on the 68 minutes whenever Yang had scored. Now, Callum McGregor came off just a few minutes before, so he came off in about the 65th minute. And he said afterwards, Brendan Rodgers had explained that he had a wee niggle in his calf. So maybe Rodgers was just taking him off just for a precaution. But actually kind of worked out to our benefit because Callum McGregor comes off, Yang goes on, who grabs 2 goals in the second half. And Arne Engels plays in the number 6 position. I was actually talking about it when I was on the podcast on Friday night with Ross, and I was explaining with Ross and Franny, and I was explaining that I think Engels does enjoy playing in that position, but he's not really going to get much opportunity without the game time that Callum McGregor is given by Brendan Rodgers, which is fair enough. He's our captain, but I just think that Engels is very, very capable of playing in that role anyway. But the opportunities are few and far between. However, the goal itself. So at 68 minutes, Celtic were probing on the left flank with Jota, and he exchanged the ball with Rio Hatate. Jota continues his run into the box, and you've got a few other decoys. Maida's buzzing about. You've got Luke McCowan available to receive a pass as well. And the St Mirren defence and midfield kind of just slept for a second. They stood off Rio Hatate, who, whenever he's given the time and the space, he's got a lot of quality, and he was able to pick out Yang, who was on the right wing, and he had his hand outstretched, calling for the ball. And Hatate kind of dinked a wee lofted ball over the St Mirren left back, and Yang at that point had already made his run, and whenever the ball was coming to him, he stops his run, and he just has to use those neck muscles to put it in at the near post, beating the keeper. Aesthetically, it was a very, very pleasing goal. And I was kind of happy for Yang. We were talking about Yang on Friday as well, whether or not he's good enough to be a Celtic player in the long term. But with the impact that he's making coming off the bench, it's hard to disagree that he does deserve these wee moments, especially whenever he's capitalising. Maybe this time a year ago, he wouldn't have made his mark, but right now he's becoming a wee bit more clinical for Celtic, making an assist here and there, and obviously converting as well. So the goal itself, brilliant, and really, really good composure. And let's not forget, he had to kind of generate his own power whenever the ball came to him. So happy days, and another wee goal for Yang.
Yeah, it's really, really good goal, as you said. I mean, aesthetically very nice, very easy to watch. And I'm going to steal the thunder by almost talk about the final goal with Yang as well. But when he does the header, you're watching it, you're like, oh, that's good, that's nice. Don't think he had that in his locker. But you think, right, a right winger heading the ball is a one-off thing. But he goes and does it again later on, and you start thinking, hold on a minute, this guy actually might have something else to his game that we didn't know about. His kind of aerial ability. On the whole, for Yang, though, I mean, I've said many times on this podcast that he's a guy that seems to want confidence. And I think I've mentioned a few times as well, you look back to last season when he got the red card against Hearts. He was coming onto a game then as well. He had a run of 3-4 games and he was coming onto a game then as well. And that red card can just put him out of the team picture for a few weeks and set him right back. I don't know if it's a confidence thing or what.
Was that Yang, or was it Awata who gets sent off against
Yang, with the high foot? And they just kind of set him back, I felt. This season, I really wanted it to work for him, gave him a lot of chances. But it was probably about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago. There's a game, I can't remember what game, but there was just a moment where that was it. I had enough. I defended him far too much for the early parts of the season. I'd written him off. I thought his time was up, and if we were to move him on this summer, I'd be absolutely pleased that he would be moving on. How wrong was I again?
Can I ask you one thing? So earlier on this season, in January, it wasn't working at all for Yang. It wasn't happening.
Absolutely.
And we had Palma as well, and it wasn't happening for Palma either. And they were two understudies for our wing backs. Obviously, Forrest has been out injured for a while, and this was before we brought in Jota. Palma and Yang were really, really struggling. So I guess I wanted to ask you, what's the kind of the one characteristic, the one redeemable characteristic that Yang had that Palma didn't have? Why did we choose to keep Yang and let Palma go? What did you think was the deciding factor between those two wingers, who both of them at that moment weren't cutting it?
It's a question you need to ask Brendan Rodgers more, of course, but I can only imagine maybe just the pace and the work rate that Yang's got over Palma. Now, pace is not everything, but it does help you a lot, or it can hinder you a lot in Palma's case, because Palma has a lot of good technical abilities. But I think maybe like without the attitude, but maybe a bit like Haksabanovic previously, the work rate isn't quite there, maybe. And maybe that's seen on the training field more than anything else. Whereas as much as it wasn't working for Yang in the first half of the season, first 2/3 of the season even, I can only imagine that his work rate must have been there, because he would always try. Yeah, he would always try and show for the ball and try and make the runs into the touchline and try and beat his man. It just never came off. But it's now coming off now, probably because he's got the confidence, probably because he's also having a lot of shall we say, passion in his life. So maybe there's sparks flying around on and off the pitch, which is good for him. We can all joke about it, but maybe it does help. Something that I think we've talked about this in the group chat as well a little bit. Bhoys Franny. This is my divergence now. But take guys like Barkas, for an example. During COVID, he suffered from not having anybody in Glasgow that he could bond with in any sense, be it,
I mean,
a
under the
friend,
sheets.
that or like you couldn't go out and bond with the teammates. You couldn't go out having a drink or anything, which can really, for people, especially coming from different cultures, which obviously Greece and definitely South Korea are definitely different cultures to Scotland, it can probably really hinder the settling in period. And I'm sure plenty of us have been in new jobs where it's not quite what you expected, or it's not quite what you've been used to and familiar with, and it can take you a little bit of time, sometimes a lot of time, to settle into a new workplace and a new environment. And you take somebody like Barkas, I think that's quite evident that he was a good goalkeeper before he came to Celtic, and he's been a good goalkeeper since he left Celtic. So he can't have been all that bad. But obviously he's no worked out for us, and maybe that kind of lack of confidence, lack of settling in kind of affected Barkas. And I think maybe you could argue similar could be happening with Yang.
Yeah.
It's easy. Sometimes it's easy for a lot of us to wax logically about the Japanese boys coming in, and they must have had a good community within themselves. So they've got the interpreters. There's a community there. They've brought the a lot of the players brought the families over as well, kids and wives and whatnot. So there's a lot of people there who've probably been able to work with each of them, kind of help themselves settle into life in Scotland. But then Yanks came in on his own. I know we've had O as well, but maybe they didn't see eye to eye. Maybe it's just the two of them. Maybe the personalities just didn't click. But then O's left as well. And maybe it's taken a point where, all jokes aside, maybe it has taken a point where his girlfriends came over and it's managed to make him settle down. Like, not settle down like have a family, obviously, but it's maybe helped him settle into his place just now. He's happier. Things are going his way. So maybe he's all about the confidence in that sense and fair play.
It could be that. It could be that his love life has enhanced his ability ability on the field. Well, I think it's worth noting that sometimes as football fans we take it for granted that whenever you bring in a new player coming from abroad, if it doesn't work out, well, okay, give him six months, but after 6 months you should be up and firing. You should be past that kind of probation period, and you should be doing well, ingratiating yourself into the language, the culture, the new teammates, the style of football. But sometimes it can take much longer. Whenever you hear about examples of that isolation, whenever a player comes over, and it can take them much longer to get up to speed with things. There have been probably other good examples of Celtic players who they took a while to get up to speed, but whenever they did, they were very, very impressive players. So it could be right. I was certainly harsh with him on Friday. Friday night obviously was before the game, and I was saying that on balance, on the whole, I don't think he's got a future at Celtic. But at the same time, I did admit that we have always had kind of mediocrity on the bench over the years. You're never going to get a perfect bench, and I wouldn't be surprised if Yang is still going to be with us next season. However, what's the difference between now and Friday? Well, he scored 2 goals in the game, and made me look a little bit silly. But if he keeps that up, that attitude, which I've been told, but reading from Brendan Rodgers, the attitude has been constant. The attitude has always been positive. And Brendan Rodgers also said in his interview that he's praised his physicality. He's a really, really good physical player. And I think that kind of is all about the hard running that he does. He doesn't give up. He's got a really good stamina as well. So I guess if combined with that, quality on the ball, these kind of finishes, then maybe he can convert being an impact sub to maybe, I don't even want to kind of finish that sentence, but maybe he could actually go from an impact sub into earning a place in the starting 11. It's kind of difficult to envisage whenever you've got Nicholas Kuhn there. But then again, Nicholas Kuhn has maybe been a little bit quiet in the last few weeks. So you get there in merit. And if Jan keeps delivering, then who's to say that I could continue to be proved wrong in that?
So there's go back a month, 6 weeks ago. As I said, I was writing him off. I was finished with him for all the defending I did of him. And yourself, you can see why did we keep him over Palmer sort of thing in January. What made the difference? So I don't think anybody can honestly say that they knew Yang was going to turn out good. And I don't think that any of us should pretend that we knew that, or any of us should pretend that this is the real Yang, because he could easily just drop form as quickly as he seems to have grasped form. I hope he keeps going as he is, but you never know. We need to see this more consistently. Adam Ida, again, 5 games on the bounce, started to look good, and then all of a sudden it's now 2 games, and he's looked absolutely terrible, for lack of a better word. And I don't mean to be too harsh, because I know there's a player in there. But Yang's now possibly at the position where, if you look at Nicholas Kuhn as being the starting right winger, he's not on the best of form either. But there's a high chance that Nicholas Kuhn could even be away this summer. Most likely the season after, he probably would be for sure. But there's a position now for Yang to stake a claim for being, I wouldn't say the understudy to Kuhn, but at least being that assured cover, and prepare himself between now and the end of the season, or preferably over the course of next season, prepare himself and prove himself to become the guy who replaces Kuhn. Because if Kuhn is to leave, at this moment in time, I wouldn't be comfortable stepping Yang up to being our first choice right winger at this stage. I think he needs to keep going at it just now. But that window is opening, wider and wider from it as he keeps up these performances. I mean, we've said that he's got his 2 goals, but he also assisted Dyson Maeda for the 4th goal. For me, that's the pick of the bunch of all 5 goals. I'll let you take it away, though.
Well, before we actually get to that, McGinty, there was a penalty claim, and it was down our left flank where the St Mirren player received the ball. By the way, if you pay attention to that sequence, Yang had been marking him up until a certain point. The ball then moved to the centre of our goal, and at that point, Yang kind of switched off and forgot that he had been marking that guy, and then that attacker came back alive because he kind of signalled to receive a pass, and at that point, Yang was behind him. He was the wrong side of him, and therefore Alistair Johnson had to make this make or break challenge. I guess that's one thing that we should be aware of with Yang about his defensive responsibilities. Let's not forget the game last season at Ibrox in the 3-each game. Yang was really, really culpable for the final goal by Rangers, which would have been an historic victory for us, but ended up being a moral victory for Rangers. However, the penalty challenge from Alistair Johnson, whenever I saw it, I thought penalty, and whenever I saw it back, I'm like, it's a definite penalty. How the referee never gave it, and how VAR never got involved, I will never know. However, I have been reading some observations on Twitter today to explain why VAR never got involved, and apparently it's because Alistair Johnson did make slight contact with the ball, even though he did follow in with studs on the St Mirren player. Apparently, minimal contact is sufficient to not give away a foul. I don't personally agree with that. If that is the actual official response, I don't agree with it. People have been making observations between that challenge and the one against Bayern Munich at Parkhead when Engels was taken down by Upamecano. What was your thoughts on that?
I think both those instances should have been penalties. If I'm being honest and frank, I think we've got away with it. But at the same time, and I know it's different referees and different VAR protocols, it shouldn't be, but I know it is. I think, the fact that we didn't get that penalty against Bayern Munich, I think it's right that we don't concede a penalty against St. Mirren for that point, although I think both of them are, because just because you get the ball doesn't mean you can't still foul somebody. I mean, follow it through to made up hypothetical extreme examples. Does that mean if I get the ball, I can come in with an elbow and knock somebody's teeth out because I got the ball? Where do you draw that line of what's still excessive and what isn't excessive, what's out of control and what's in control? I think both of them should be penalties. I think it's one of these ones, if you're going to use the rules, malice, intent, excessive, out of control, these are things that metrics that referees and VAR make to analyse to see if free kicks, red cards or penalties should be what they are. I think it's Rio Hatate got away with a yellow card a few weeks ago for a challenge that arguably could have been a red, but when you watch the replays and VAR gets involved in it, they're looking at it and the reasoning behind it not being a red card and it was only yellow was that you could see that Rio Hatate was pulling out of the challenge. This is Celtic Park, I can't remember who it was against, near the halfway line. But Rio Hatate starts to pull out, although he takes the guy out, you can see in the slow motion that he's pulling his leg out of the challenge, even though his momentum still takes him through. So as a free kick, he gets a yellow card rather than the red card for it. I think that's fair. But again, you can't, if you're going to use those metrics, you have to do it. I don't think you can just blanket, you get the ball. It doesn't mean, I think both the St. Mirren should have had a penalty, and I think we should have had one against Bayern Munich.
Yeah. Also kind of makes me think whenever I'm thinking of previous examples, there was a game between Celtic and Rangers. I don't know if this was last season or the previous year, but the boy Silva for Rangers, that Brazilian boy, he had isolated Alistair Johnson in our box in one of the games, and he knocked the ball past him. Johnson went in for a slide tackle, very similar position, and I think Johnson nicked the ball, but I think he also brought down Silva and the penalty was given. Just a particular one. I don't know if that's a fair example. I'd probably have to watch it back.
No, but that's one of those things where if we're saying that you've got the ball means that you don't get a penalty, then that's one of those ones I would say is a bit more like the Rio Hatate one. He gets the ball and there's no malice or intent to then foul him. I think that is one that should have went more in our favour. Whereas I think the one against St. Mirren, I think he's followed through, and I think it should have been penalty. It's almost like, do you then stop the attack from happening? Just because you get the ball doesn't mean, you get a touch of the ball doesn't mean that all of a sudden the attack stops. You still need to. So if you fall through, stops the attacker, that's a penalty.
Yeah. He didn't win the ball. He didn't win the ball. Certainly not. Well, that just kind of came at a really, really pivotal moment, because at that point we're 3-2 up, and if they got that as a penalty, and assuming that they scored it, then obviously it would have been us pegged back to 3 each again, and that would have been a continuing theme. So I just felt it was a really, really pivotal game and a pivotal moment in the season. But it's kind of like swings and roundabouts. We had a decision go against us at Easter Road, where that was the difference between us losing the game and potentially getting a point in that game. And then here today, we win. Saturday, we win, or potentially it could have been a draw. So you get a decision for you, you get a decision against you. in this occasion on the balance, maybe it's kind of evened itself out rightly or wrongly, but that's just how I'm seeing it. And neither am I going to feel too sorry for St Mirren anyway. But we were talking about Yang before then, and the goal for Maida in the 88th minute, well, Yang was pivotal in this. So it was an absolutely wonderful, wonderful pass from Yang. So Celtic were kind of threading the ball up from Cameron Carter-Vickers to Alistair Johnson, threads it up to Yang, and who's on the right flank, and he kind of runs back. He's got his back to his defender, and he just opens his body up and he swings at it with his left foot. And I think he's predominantly a right-footed player. I could be wrong. In fact, I don't know, maybe he is left-footed. But he swings at it with his left foot, and it was just this curling, lofted through ball for Maida. So the height itself of the ball takes out one of the centre-backs. The ball was played in front of Maida. He's running onto it. He's got a defender running with him, and he doesn't have to break stride at all. He takes one touch with his right, and he nutmegs the defender. It opens the goal up for him. He's got everything to aim at, and he knows what he's doing. It's just such a perfectly fluid motion from Maida. He side foots it with his left, goes past the keeper, and just a beautiful, beautiful goal. And he runs on to the adoring Celtic fans right in front of him. Just an amazing goal. Maida, he's full of confidence right now. Just great to see him do that. He doesn't even have to think about what he's going to do. But the assist as well from Yang was breathtaking. Overall, probably the goal of the night, I would say. Just a top entertainment. I was kind of jealous of the travelling support who managed to see that in the flesh.
Yeah, I agree. As I said earlier, definitely my pick of the night. It's that the pass is absolutely fantastic as well, but for me, it's the move from Maida. As you say, he kind of takes on his right, nutmegs the guy, turns, runs onto it, opens up the space. Dyson Maida does not possess great technical ability, but he kind of really showed a lot of technical ability in that. But what I saw more in that move was everything that I know Dyson Maida to have, which is his explosive pace, and he's just raw instinct. Stuff just happens for Dyson Maida in moments like that. He doesn't think about if Maida thinks too much, he'll muck it up. See, when he doesn't think, just his instincts, that's what you get from it. It's absolutely fantastic. And not to get to near the end of this podcast and have another bash at Adam Ida, because again, I want to keep reiterating, he's had some good games since Cargo left, and I know there's a good player in there, so I'm expecting him to come back into form. But for right now, in the moment of the last few weeks, the kind of who do you pick, Maida or Adam Ida overall, that goal there is kind of why I would pick Dyson Maida. His ability, his instinctive reactions, and his pace is so deadly. Those balls are going to get pinged from any side, from Yang, from Kuhn, from Jota, from Engels, from Hatate, and Maida can find that kind of space. He can create that moment, whereas I don't think Adam Ida can quite do that yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. And see, one kind of perspective which we are unable to think about it from this perspective is, see, if you're a defender or an opposition fan who are about to play Celtic, the kind of inevitable question that they might kind of ponder is, who would I rather defend against? Who would I rather see in the Celtic 11? I think a lot of people would rather defend against Adam Ida because it's a wee bit more predictable. Sometimes it's easier for a centre-back to do physicality against physicality in Adam Ida, whereas with Maida, pace kills, and he's just very, very unpredictable, and he's got a great instinct as well. As you said, if he's got too much time to think about things, then he'll ruin it for himself. But if he just gets that wee moment, then he can be absolutely deadly. So I think from an opposition point of view, they would fear Maida far more than what they would fear in Adam Ida.
Just look at the Bayern Munich game, for example, so that even Neuer was struggling against the press of Dyson Maida. I read something, I think it was yesterday, I hope it's true, and maybe other people have read it as well. It seemed like Carter Vickers was talking to Eric Dyer after the games, and seemingly that's something that Bayern Munich players were talking about amongst themselves, was Dies in mind his work rate, his pressing, his energy, I think it's something to do with his sprints, or something like above and beyond anything that
high
they've
intensity
practically seen is so high intensity that they struggle to cope with it as well. I mean, we saw it with the eye test, but to hear other players acknowledge that was a concern for them, that again just highlights that's the player you need to be putting in those kind of positions.
Yeah, and see, going into that Bayern Munich second game in Germany, I was thinking start with Adamida because we're going to need his presence in both boxes, that height. And I was just thinking from a pragmatic defensive point of view, start Adamida, and if things go well, then bring on Maida. But the last 20 minutes at Parkhead showed how attacking we could be when Maida's played through the middle and Jota's on the left and Kuhn's on the right. And that's that kind of that thinking where sometimes if I was to set up Celtic, I would have started with Adamida because I'm fearing what could happen if we don't have his height. Whereas Rodgers was wise enough at that moment just to realise we're just more attacking, we're more dynamic if we play the best players to their best strengths, and that's Maida up through the middle. So yeah, that was my point. So if we kind of finish off with the remaining kind of flashpoint of the game, it was Yang who picked up his second goal of the game, and it happened from some good play down the wing. Jota brings in Schlupp. He kind of powers down to the byline, going past his marker just with absolute strength and pace. And he delivers a brilliant cross to find Yang, who is in a kind of similar position to where he was for his earlier goal. And he heads it in again, same spot as earlier on, and he wheels away, and that was him. He picked up his man of the match, first man of the match, I believe, in a Celtic jersey, and it just capped off a brilliant night for him. So to get a goal right at the end to make it 5-2, it kind of, the scoreline wasn't reflective of how the game was itself. It was an absolute battle. We really had to fight with St Mirren and keep our cool under some difficult moments. But our quality shone through in the end. So that's 10 goals that we've scored in the past 2 games. We got 5 against Aberdeen, and we've got another 5 at the weekend there. So the goal difference is racking right up right now. Brilliant to see. So overall, a fantastic game. If you actually look at the stats, we had 76% possession, but that doesn't tell the true story of the game. So big shout out to Yang, man of the match, and Rodgers was obviously waxing lyrical about him. Let's not forget Luke McCubbin, who came on in the second half, and he came close to scoring. He actually hit the ball off the post after some great creativity from Rio Hatate. And Engels played the number 6 position very, very well. Really, really calm. So happy with that. And overall, we're just marching on. As we said at the start of the podcast, before my Wi-Fi played up, we're now 3 wins away from retaining the Scottish Premiership crown. So and we've had a difficult last few months. We're playing games every 3 days or whatever. It's been such a tough congestion of fixtures, and right now things are more simplified. Like, look at this, okay? So the fixtures coming up, we've got Hibs in the 9th of March. We've got Rangers on the 16th of March, Hearts on the 29th of March, Celtic and St Johnstone the 6th of April, and then Kilmarnock on the 12th of April. It's just one game a week now, and people can get rested more. Brendan can spend more time with them on the coaching facilities in Lennoxtown. Things are really, really working out well for us this season after a lot of hard work from everybody, from the management, coaching, to the players itself. It's been a really satisfying season so far.
Yeah, Ross is going to laugh at me. Obviously, we were game managing our way through, obviously, November, December, and January. Such a busy period, as always is. And I think we've seen a lot of laboured results and performances from Celtic at times, some really cracking performances as well. I think we've probably tried to keep ourselves for the European games as and when we could. and then we see a bit of a burnout and hangover after the Bayern Munich games. But we're still getting the results at the end of the day. Hibs aside, we're still getting the results at the end of the day. But as you say, we've got one game a week now. Even a week's break in between in March, obviously with the final international week. So it should give plenty of players plenty of time to rest in between, which should hopefully help guys like Callum McGregor, even Nicholas Kuhn, who both look a little bit leggy, a little bit kind of lethargic in themselves. But hopefully, as you say it as well, it can help Brendan Rodgers getting the players on the training pitch and kind of going through things rather than just, warming down from the game before, then warming up for the next game and only have maybe 1 day of kind of real training. He's now going to get 3-4 days a week to work on things and develop new ideas and get players to focus their attention on different aspects of the game to try and improve them as great as Rodgers is at doing those kind of things. To just touch back on the game though, talk about McCarron as well here. I think this kind of just ties in a little bit with the need for some players to have these this weekly rest, this break in between without playing 2 or 3 games within a 7-day period. I think that was very well spotted against St. Mirren, that see when the subs did happen, the game changed. I'm not saying McCarron's better than McGregor, I'm not saying Yang's better than Kuhn or anything like that, but you saw the energy and the pace and the intensity come back into the team when these guys come on because they're a bit fresher. And I think, I just think it's a much needed break. I'm with you on that one. I'd also like to point out that the fact that Yang got man of the match after only being on the pitch for 25 minutes is quite impressive as well. That's still going. And I think that probably highlights the difference between the first part of the game that was really quite poor to when the subs made and we got that energy into the side. We became a different team. We became a different way of playing. And when we see ourselves playing with that intensity and that energy, the goals come. We've seen that all season.
Yeah, absolutely. McGinty, I guess this kind of concludes the Monday night episode. Some people call it a moan fest, but certainly not tonight. Not tonight, unless of course you are talking about Jeffrey Schlupp. But no, I've really enjoyed it. A brilliant game to talk about it. So many flashpoints, and it kind of filled up enough content tonight on its own to get us through way past the hour mark. So I just want to apologise to the viewers with the Wi-Fi earlier on. It didn't work out. Thankfully, I managed to come on my mobile and we managed to see it out. But McGinty, to yourself, thank you so much for kind of holding the ship whenever my Wi-Fi was flailing. If you didn't do that, maybe a lot of people would have dropped off. So thank you so much for doing that.
Totally held it on.
You're a pro. You're an absolute pro, mate. Again, we'll finish up for tonight. We will be back. What's the day? Today's Monday. So we'll be back on Friday for another Endless Celts podcast. But I've really enjoyed it. It's been brilliant speaking to you. And I'm quite jealous of the top that you've got. A long sleeve one without a sponsor. Very nice. Very nice indeed.
I enjoy wearing this.
Anyway, right, okay, so to the people in the comments, thank you again for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and please tune in again for Friday. But from us and from me and you, it's over and out. Can you hit the exit button? Because
I need to do that, don't I?
I don't have the capability of that.
Thank you very much and all the best. Hail.